Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 289, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. And in the co-main event, we have highly anticipated lightweight fight, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. And this is going to be my UFC 289 full card predictions. I'm going to start with the prelims, go all the way to the main event, and give you a prediction for every single fight on the card. I've already done a bunch of UFC 289 content. I will link my UFC 289 playlist down in the description if you want to go check it out after this. And do me a favor, guys, if you enjoy these full card predictions, make sure to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. I would greatly appreciate it. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Belbiţă versus Maria Oliveira. This is one of those low-level women's MMA fights that could honestly go either way. They're both coming off a loss in their last fight. Belbiţă lost to Gloria De Paulo in her last fight. Maria Oliveira lost to Vanessa Demopoulos in her last fight. Both similar age, both similar height, both similar reach. Belbiţă, primarily a striker, a little bit more technical. Maria Oliveira, primarily a striker, but a little bit wild and crazy on the feet. Neither one of them likes to go to the ground. And that's what makes this fight a little bit tough to pick, because Maria Oliveira, a little bit more dynamic. Belbiţă, more technical. For my prediction, I am going Belbiţă via decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. I just think she's a little bit more technical striker. Well, she's more of a technical striker, not just a little bit. And I just think with her volume, and I think she has decent defensive responsibility in her striking, I think she'll be able to avoid some of the wild attacks of Maria Oliveira. She has great body shots. She has good kicks. And I just think she'll be able to go out there, land more volume on Maria Oliveira, beat her up, and win maybe a 29-28 decision. Maybe Maria Oliveira gets around. I don't really see any grappling in this fight, but if I had to give an advantage, I would give it to Belbiţă. And also, Maria Oliveira in the last fight, she got dropped by Vanessa Demopoulos. Need I say more? So I'm going Belbiţă via decision. Moving up on the card, we have David Dvořák versus Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg stepping in on short notice. Matt Schnell pulled out of the fight. And I know sometimes we see these short notice fighters step in and they get a shocking win. I don't know if it's going to happen in this fight. I mean, the level of competition discrepancy between these two fighters is insane. When you look at Erceg's recent competition, the last guy he beat was 4-1. The guy before was 7-5. The guy before that was 2-0. You look at David Dvořák, his last few fights, Manel Kopp, Mateus Nicolau. I mean, you look at his last win, not the greatest last win, but, you know, the level of competition they have fought is vastly different. And, you know, I look at them, they're both relatively young. Steve Erceg has a height advantage. They actually both won their last fight in similar fashion. They both kind of stuffed a takedown and then got the back and got a rear naked choke. But I just think Steve Erceg taking an opportunity, stepping in against a high-level flyweight fighter in David Dvořák. And I just think David Dvořák does everything better than Steve Erceg. I'm going to go David Dvořák via second-round TKO. I think he has very good striking. I know he lost to Manel Kopp. He got outstruck. He got hurt badly. He almost got Kimura in the first round. But I just think in this fight, taking on a guy who's already low level, who has a low level of experience, who's faced a low level of competition, I just think, and then on top of that, he's stepping in on short notice. I think David Dvořák gets it done with his striking. I think he's gonna be winning the first round. He may even stop it in the first round. I don't think Steve Erceg belongs in there with David Dvořák. I think the UFC just wanted to find a replacement opponent. And I think David Dvořák has good power. He lands good shots. He landed a couple good shots on Manel Kopp. You know, Manel Kopp obviously has a great chin and good striking himself. But I just think he gets it done. I think he's going to clip him in the second round, follow him to the ground and pound TKO, second round for David Dvořák. Moving up the card, Blake Bilder versus Kyle Nelson. Blake Bilder on a long winning streak, undefeated. He's 8-0. Then you have Kyle Nelson, who's 13-5. In his last fight, it was a draw, but he should have lost to Doi Hoi Choi. There was a weird, elbow, ground and pound elbow from Doi Hoi Choi, and he kind of led with the head, and it didn't even land hard, and the referee took a point for some reason. The fight before that, he lost to Jai Herbert, got outstruck. The fight before that, he got stopped by Billy Quarantillo. They're both 32 years old. Height advantage for Kyle Nelson, 3-inch height advantage, and about, a 2.5-inch reach advantage for Kyle Nelson. But Kyle Nelson wants to grapple, and I just don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple Blake Bilder, and I don't think he has the striking to outstrike Blake Bilder either. I think Blake Bilder is a very good up-and-coming prospect, and I think Blake Bilder will outstrike him on the feet, and I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns, and I think he has more power. He has more momentum going. Kyle Nelson would be having lost 4 out of his last 5 if it wasn't for basically the majority draw in his last fight. So I am going with Blake Bilder via decision. I think he uses his striking. I think he outstrikes him. I think he lands good shots on the feet. I just think he has good movement. He has good takedown defense, and he's just more well-rounded. And I just think that Kyle Nelson's too hittable, gets clipped up on the feet, and he's not even like this phenomenal grappler. Like Doi Hoi Choi was out scrambling him and defending takedowns and ending up on top. So I think Blake Bilder wins this fight. I think the UFC, because Blake Bilder's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, they're trying to build him up, and they gave him an opponent that he can win against. I'm going Blake Bilder via decision, but wouldn't be surprised if he got the stoppage. Moving up the card, Aiemann Zahabi versus Aoriqileng. This is a fight that honestly is very interesting. I think it will be fun. You have Zahabi, who has kind of been inactive. He has 6 fights in 6 years. That's absolutely crazy. He's coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. He fought Ricky Turcios in his last fight. Before that was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago against Draco Rodriguez. He won that fight via KO, TKO. He won against Ricky Turcios via decision. He's 35 years old, so Aoriqileng has a massive youth advantage. Both similar height, both similar reach. When I look at this fight, I see Zahabi, who's kind of well-rounded. He has good body kicks. He has decent power. He has good leg kicks. And then when I look at Aoriqileng, he's dynamic. I think he's the better striker. But I just don't think he has the cardio to kind of keep it up. It seems like he starts to slow down in every single fight he's in. His last fight against Jay Perrin, he lost the 3rd round. He could have lost that fight. The 2nd round was close. I thought he won, but still, he's losing the 3rd round against Jay Perrin. Then look what Raul Rosas Jr. did to him. The fight before that, against a guy who's 10-5, Cameron Elsa, won that fight via TKO. But before that, fought Cody Durden, lost decision, got out grappled. Before that, lost to Jeff Molina. All in the last 2 years. I don't like the 35 years old for Zahabi, but I'm going Zahabi 3rd round TKO. He conserves his energy. He has good body kicks. I think he'll be sapping the stamina of Aoriqileng with the body kicks and body shots. And I think Aoriqileng maybe wins the 1st round, but the momentum starts to shift at the end of the 1st round. Then Zahabi starts to take over in the 2nd. And eventually Aoriqileng is going to be exhausted in the 3rd. And I think Zahabi is going to find a TKO finish in the 3rd round. Moving up on the card, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Miranda Maverick. This is another fight where, I hate to say it, but a lot of these women's MMA fights that aren't towards the top, half the time are 50-50 fights. But honestly, with this one, I look at both of these girls. I see Jasmine Jasudavicius, 34 years old, versus Miranda Maverick, 25 years old. Jasudavicius has a height advantage, 4-inch height advantage, and a 3-inch reach advantage. But honestly, I think Miranda Maverick is the much more well-rounded and better fighter. I see this fight, Miranda Maverick could find a finish, but I'm going Miranda Maverick via decision. I just think she's more well-rounded. I think she has a little bit better grappling. I think she has the submission ability. I think Jasudavicius wants to grapple, and her striking's not good. But I just don't think, even if, I think Miranda Maverick decides where this fight goes. I think she'll be able to stuff the takedowns of Jasudavicius and even use those takedown attempts from Jasudavicius to reverse, end up on top, land some ground and pound. And I think Miranda Maverick's the better striker. So I could really see this fight, Miranda Maverick just stuffing the takedowns and striking with her for 3 rounds. And I see a 30-27 win for Miranda Maverick. Moving up the card, we have Nassourdine Imavov versus Chris Curtis, a middleweight division fight. This is a very compelling fight. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. This should be on the main card. This should not be on the prelims. You have Nassourdine Imavov coming off that loss against Sean Strickland, which was a short notice replacement. It was supposed to be Kelvin Gastelum originally. You have Chris Curtis coming off the loss to Kelvin Gastelum. This fight was kind of controversial. It was a very close fight. There was a headbutt in the 2nd round, which probably cost Chris Curtis the fight. I did an entire video on that. Chris Curtis, 35 years old. Nassourdine Imavov, 27. So an 8-year youth advantage for Nassourdine Imavov. A massive height advantage for Nassourdine, a 5-inch height advantage, but actually a 1/2-inch reach advantage for Chris Curtis. When I look at this fight, I see a Nassourdine Imavov who faded quite a bit against Sean Strickland, who Sean Strickland was outstriking and bullying in the clinch. And who's Chris Curtis's main training partner? Sean Strickland. So I think Chris Curtis is going to be more than ready for this fight. I think Nassourdine Imavov got hyped up a little bit too much as a middleweight contender. I'm going Chris Curtis via decision. If it was a 5-round fight, I'd be even more confident in Chris Curtis. It seems like he's always coming on strong in the 3rd round. He was coming on strong in the Kelvin Gastelum 3rd round. He was coming on strong in the Jack Hermanson 3rd round. And I just think Nassourdine Imavov will be good in the 1st round. And I just think he's going to be looking for the grappling. And Chris Curtis in the past, but it was a long time ago, was exposed in the grappling, and he's improved vastly over the last few years in his grappling. I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns. I think he has the crisper boxing, and he's super defensively responsible on the feet. It's not like Nassoudine's going to be able to clip him and drop him and find him on the ground and then be able to control him on the ground. I think Chris Curtis, as long as he doesn't get caught in that trap where he's just defending really well, and you have Nassourdine throwing more volume and then Chris Curtis landing a little bit better shots, and maybe he loses a decision because of optics, I think Chris Curtis wins this fight. I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns of Nassourdine Imavov. I think he'll be able to outstrike him. I think he'll land the better shots on the feet. I think it'll be a very competitive fight, but I just think, especially after that first round, maybe Imavov gets the first round just on volume, but after that first round, Imavov starts to slow down. I know he just had a 5-round fight, but his cardio has always been suspect, and I think Chris Curtis, second and third round for sure. I am going with Chris Curtis. I'm going to say 29-28 decision for Chris Curtis. Moving up on the card, we have Eryk Anders versus Marc-André Barriault. This is the first fight on the main card, and this honestly doesn't belong on the main card. It's only because Marc-André Barriault is Canadian. Both coming off a win in their last fight. 36 years old for Eryk Anders, 33 years old for Marc-André Barriault. 6'1" to 6'1", basically the same reach, 1-inch reach advantage for Eryk Anders. This is a tough fight to pick. You have Eryk Anders, who's coming off a KO win over Kyle Daukaus, but who's not KO in Kyle Daukaus at this point in time. You have Marc-André Barriault, who lost the first round against Julian Marquez, and then Julian Marquez started to gas out in that second round, and eventually Marc-André Barriault just swarming him with combinations, looking for the finish. I think this fight is primarily going to be striking. If I had to give a wrestling advantage, I'd give it to Eryk Anders. But if I had to give a jiu-jitsu advantage, I'd give it to Barriault. I'm going to go with Eryk Anders via second round KO. This was a tough fight to pick, but I just think he'll be able to defend the takedowns. Eryk Anders shown that he's very durable and has good stamina. He does fade a little bit, but it's nothing crazy. He's not going to fade like Julian Marquez. And I think he has better striking and better power. And we've seen Marc-André Barriault finish before. He got finished by Anthony Hernandez via submission. He got finished by Chidi Njokuani via KO. That was only a year and 3 months ago. So I think Eryk Anders will be able to stuff the takedowns. I think he's going to be stronger in the clinch, which Barriault's okay in the clinch, has some good knees in the clinch. And I think Eryk Anders will land the bigger shots. I think it'll be a competitive fight. I think Eryk Anders, I think he's going to land a big shot in the second round, drop him, and finish him with ground and pound. I'm going Eryk Anders, second round TKO. Moving up on the card, Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. This is a fight that I hate to predict because Nate Landwehr in his last few fights, Austin Lingo, crazy fight where he won via rear naked choke. The fight before that, David Onama, he wins via decision, crazy comeback win. The fight before that against Ludovic Klein, he wins via submission and anaconda choke. And you look at this fight, you've seen Dan Ige, who's 31 years old, Nate Landwehr, who's 35 years old. Nate Landwehr has a 2-inch height advantage, similar reach. But I just think Dan Ige, he's ranked in the top 15. Nate Landwehr is getting a big jump up in competition against Dan Ige. And I just think that Dan Ige is going to be too much of a step up in competition. Dan Ige, in my opinion, you look at his recent fights. He KO'd Damon Jackson in his last fight, who was on a nice little run himself. Then before that, he lost to Movsar Evloev. But I believe Movsar Evloev is a future contender in the featherweight division. Then you look at the fight before that, he lost to Josh Emmett before Josh Emmett went on to fight for an interim belt. I thought he beat Josh Emmett. It was a very close fight. I thought he beat Josh Emmett. And I just look at Dan Ige, he's fought so much better level of competition. The Korean Zombie. He finished Gavin Tucker 2 years ago, and that was kind of his coming out party in a way. That's not the greatest competition, but you get my point. After that, he fought really good featherweight competition. Nate Landwehr takes a lot of damage. And when you're getting pieced up by Austin Lingo, I just think Dan Ige's striking is going to be too much for you. I'm going Dan Ige first round KO. I just think he's got really good power in his hands. I think he's got decent footwork, decent movement. And you can only get by on your durability and pressure for so long. And I just don't think Nate Landwehr, I think the time has come. He's going to get exposed. I think Dan Ige is going to clip him badly and finish him in the first round. Dan Ige has nasty power. We saw what he did to Damon Jackson. We saw what he did to Gavin Tucker. Dan Ige has good power in his hands, and I just think he's the better overall fighter. So even if Nate Landwehr is so durable that he can survive the onslaught of Dan Ige, unless Dan Ige completely gasses himself going for the finish, I have to pick Danny again. I think he gets it done, even if he has to win by decision. But I think he will get a finish in this fight, and I think he's going to brutally KO Nate Landwehr in the first round. Moving up the card to the featured fight on the main card, Mike Malott versus Adam Fugitt. They have no business being on the featured fight of the main card of a pay-per-view, but Mike Malott is Canadian, so that's why they're on the main card and the featured fight on the main card. 9-1 for Mike Malott. You know, Adam Fugitt's 9-3, so relatively inexperienced. 31 years old for Malott. Fugitt's 34 years old, so youth advantage for Malott. 6'1", 6'1", and then a 4-inch reach advantage for Adam Fugitt. When I look at this fight, I see a fight between two guys who are still kind of figuring out their skill sets and still relatively inexperienced. And I look at Malott's competition. You know, he beat Johan Linnes in his last fight. He beat him via arm triangle, hurt him, fouled him to the ground, finished him. Then he beat Mickey Gall. And in that Mickey Gall fight, he finished Mickey Gall badly with a left hook, but he was getting clipped up before that. You know, it's not like he was getting destroyed or anything like that, but he ate quite a few good power shots. And then, of course, he's coming off Dana White's Contender Series, so the UFC's trying to build him a bit. You have Adam Fugitt. In his last fight, he got a win over Kenosha, KO'd him from mount, finished him with ground and pound shots. Before that, he lost to Michael Morales. I think he lost all 3 rounds in that fight. Had some grappling moments where he was able to take him down and control him for a little bit, but wasn't able to control him for long periods of time and just got outstruck and eventually finished. And when I look at this fight, I see Malott, who's a better striker, has very good kicks, good movement, good stance switching. And I think Fugitt's going to want to grapple, going to want to take him down. And I do think Fugitt has a grappling advantage, but I think Malott will use the kicks to the body, the side kicks to the body to keep distance. I think he has a striking advantage. And I'm going Mike Malott via second round TKO. I just think Adam Fugitt kind of gets a little bit sloppy looking for takedowns, and he's going to be looking to grapple in this fight. And he's very hittable. I do think he has that wrestling advantage. So if he can get the takedown, there's a chance he could beat Mike Malott by just controlling him on the ground, beating him up on the ground, and maybe winning a decision. But I just think Malott's going to be going out there looking to make a statement in Canada. And I just think he's going to be keeping the distance well. He's going to kind of get a feel for Fugitt's timing early. And I think in the second round, I'm going to call Mike Malott via second round head kick KO. It's going to finish him badly with the head kick. Malott has great kicks, and I just think Fugitt's going to get a little bit more desperate. You know, midway through that second round, when he realizes the fight isn't going his way, he hasn't been able to secure any takedowns. He probably lost the first round. He's losing the second. I think he's going to get a little bit more desperate. I think he's going to leave himself open, and I think he's going to get KO'd by Mike Malott in the second round. Moving on to the co-main event, the real people's main event, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. This is such a tough fight to pick. This is a fight that I've been flipping and flopping and flipping and flopping back and forth on. I was going with Oliveira, then I was going with Dariush, then I was going with Oliveira. This is a very difficult fight to pick, honestly. You have Oliveira 33-9, been in the UFC forever. You have Beneil Dariush, who's 22-4, been in the UFC forever. 33 years old for Oliveira, 34 years old for Dariush, even though he looks like he's 60. 5'10 for Oliveira, 5'10 for Dariush. 74-inch reach for Oliveira, 72-inch reach for Dariush. And honestly, this is one of those fights that gets me so excited because it's like truly what is going to happen in this fight. You have 2 high-level lightweights, and there's massive stakes on the line. I mean, there's title implications in this fight. Beneil Dariush arguably already deserves a title shot. If he beats Oliveira, there's no denying him a title shot at that point. He'll be on this long, crazy win streak. He'll be fighting Islam Makhachev at UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi in late October. So massive stakes for Dariush here. But, you know, I don't know. I'm still making my pick as I'm making this video, even though I've already done my research and I kind of made my pick, you know, an hour ago. I'm still debating it. What I see is I see a Beneil Dariush who's improving every single fight out. I think he's super well-rounded. And in his last fight against Mateusz Gamrot, I mean, the scrambling ability was unbelievable. After I watched that Gamrot fight, there's no path to victory in terms of Oliveira just using his offensive grappling without mixing in his striking. And then also for Oliveira, he gets hurt in like every single fight, and eventually that's going to catch up to you. He got hurt in the Islam Makhachev fight, and then he got finished via arm triangle. So it shows Oliveira not as immune on the ground as we thought he was as he hit his prime. And Oliveira has been submitted in the past before that. But before that, what a title run. Justin Gaethje got clipped up in that fight, but eventually found the finish, rear naked choke. Dustin Poirier fight, got clipped up, eventually found the rear naked choke, hurt Dustin Poirier. Or no, Dustin Poirier overreached with a combination, took his back, rear naked choked him. Fight before that, got hurt against Michael Chandler, eventually hurt Michael Chandler, then found the finish. For my official prediction for the co-main event, I am going with Charles Oliveira, second round rear naked choke finish. And what I saw when I went back and rewatched some fights, first off, this was mind-blowing to me. Talk about the Mandela effect. The Charles Oliveira-Islam Makhachev fight was much more competitive than I remember. It was just competitive until it wasn't. There's no doubt Makhachev was winning the fight. He won the first round. Second round was competitive. He gets dropped, and then he gets finished immediately with the arm triangle. And I think a lot of people just have that in their memory, and I just think it's overshadowing Charles Oliveira. And then also you have the fact that they were supposed to fight last month at 288. Oliveira pulled out with an injury. We don't know what that injury was. He's fighting a month later. That's kind of sitting there. And then you have Beneil Dariush, who has this phenomenal performance against Mateusz Gamrot at UFC 280. So it's kind of the contrast. Oliveira loses on the same night that Beneil Dariush looks better than ever. But what I really saw when I started watching tape is I think Charles Oliveira's striking is significantly better than Beneil Dariush. I think Beneil Dariush is kind of slow on the feet. He throws a lot of wild looping punches. And Oliveira, I think coming off a loss for the first time in a while, I think he's going to be a little bit more conservative. I think he's still going to be aggressive, but just not as crazy and wild, leaving his chin out there. And I just think if he just goes out there and strikes with Dariush, I think he'll outstrike Dariush. It's just a matter of does he fight smart or not. And don't get me wrong, if Beneil Dariush catches him, Beneil Dariush has good power in his hands. He could drop him, follow him to the ground because Dariush has good jiu-jitsu where guys like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje aren't following him to the ground. So there is that dynamic as well. But also, I think Charles Oliveira will have an advantage in the clinch. Oliveira has great knees in the clinch. He even used them against Islam Makhachev. And I can see Oliveira landing on the feet, mixing in the clinch work. I don't think Dariush is going to actively try to take him to the ground. And I just think that we've seen Beneil Dariush hurt before. He got hurt by Jakar Close. He got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez, but that was a long time ago. But I just think Oliveira, with his technical ability and with Dariush, he's kind of got this slow, labored striking. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's a little bit slow and labored, especially compared and contrast to Charles Oliveira's striking. I just think Oliveira will find a shot that hurts Dariush. I do not think Oliveira can take Dariush down, just shoot a double leg and take him down and then submit him. I don't think that's going to happen. Dariush is too good on the ground for that, has too good of scrambles. I think Oliveira has to hurt him on the feet. And I think in the second round, Oliveira is going to find a left hook, a straight right down the middle. He's going to hurt Dariush badly, and then he's going to capitalize on it. There's going to be a crazy scramble. Dariush is going to leave his neck exposed. Next thing you know, Charles Oliveira on his back. Rear naked choke for Charles Oliveira in the second round. What a crazy win that would be. So my official prediction, Charles Oliveira, late second round rear naked choke. Moving on to the main event, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. This is not the fight we were originally supposed to get. We were supposed to get that barn burner in Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena 3, which thank God that isn't happening. I think this main event's being slept on a little bit. It's not a horrible fight. I think Irene Aldana has a decent chance to win this fight. She's coming in on a 2-fight win streak, one against Macy Chiasson, the up kick to the liver, in a fight that she was probably going to lose. She won the first round. There was a takedown shot from Macy where there was a scramble, and Irene Aldana ends up on top, finishing the first round with full mount, brutal elbows, ground and pound. Then the second round, Chiasson starts winning the second round, gets some grappling going, gets her back, ends up controlling her in the second round, clearly winning the second round. And then it's looking like the third round is going to go that same way. Chiasson takes her down, is controlling her. Then Aldana gets her feet on the hips, pushes her up, throws an up kick, swings down with the heel, lands right on the liver, finishes Chiasson. Craziest finish I saw. I mean, that we'll probably never see something like that again. The fight before that, she KO'd Yana Santos. That was a brutal ground and pound KO. You don't really see that in women's MMA. And then the fight before that, her last loss, which was 2.5 years ago, was the Holly Holm. She got outstruck, outgrappled in this fight. And then you have Amanda Nunes, who she won her last fight like 50-43 against Juliana Pena. But the fight before that, she kind of, she didn't really show up against Juliana Pena in the first fight. She got finished via rear naked choke. That was 1.5 years ago already. What is going on? Then you also have the fact that Nunes, is she becoming complacent? She got the win back against Juliana Pena. I think she was too complacent when she fought her the first time, and that's why she lost. 35 years old, but so's Aldana. They're both 35 years old. You have a slight height advantage for Aldana. You have a slight reach advantage for Nunes. When I look at these two fighters, I just see too much of an advantage for Amanda Nunes. I think she's got the better striking. I think she's got more power. I think she's faster. I think she has the better grappling. And I have to go with Amanda Nunes. It's just a matter of how. My official prediction is going to be Amanda Nunes via decision. I just think she's got better striking than Irene Aldana. If Holly Holm's just boxing you up for 5 rounds in a main event, Amanda Nunes is probably going to do the same. Amanda Nunes finished Holly Holm with a head kick. And, Holly Holm, she has good boxing, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't have any power. So I feel like maybe Nunes gets the finish, but I think Aldana is very tough, very durable. I think she's going to come game. And I just think Amanda Nunes is going to dominate the majority of this fight. I think Aldana has a chance. She has good power. She's decently well-rounded. But even in the event that Aldana was able to win the striking exchanges, which I don't think she'll be able to, I think Amanda Nunes could take her down and out-grapple him. I mean, Chasson was able to take her down and control her on the ground after the first round. And I just think Amanda Nunes' grappling is way better than Irene Aldana. So I think she will be able to take her down, beat her up. I think this fight is going to be where Amanda Nunes uses her full game. I think she's going to be using her striking, using her movement, using her grappling. I think she'll be outstriking her on the feet, clipping her up on the feet, busting her up, doing some damage. And I think when Aldana least expects it, when she starts to get a little bit more desperate and lunging in, I think Nunes will take her down, control on the ground, beat her up on the ground. I could also see maybe like a 3rd round TKO for Nunes. If I was picking Nunes by finish, I'd probably go like 3rd or 4th round TKO. But I just think Aldana is just going to be so durable, so tough. Nunes, didn't finish Juliana Pena in the last fight. I expected her to be able to finish her. She wasn't able to. I know she said she wanted to make it a 5-round beating, but I don't necessarily buy that. So I think Aldana is going to be tough enough to hang in. I think she'll be more motivated than ever getting a title shot. But I think Amanda Nunes is going to be too much. I think she got that reality check 2 fights ago against Juliana Pena. I think she's going to come into this fight. I think she's going to have the better striking. I think she's going to be faster. I think she's going to have more power. She's got more tools. I think Amanda Nunes beats Irene Aldana via decision, and I think she retains her bantamweight title. What happens with the featherweight belt? I don't know. The division doesn't exist. But I think Amanda Nunes gets it done in the main event of UFC 289. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.